Here we are again with another Disney retrospective review. Here we are talking about Oliver and Company 35 years after its release. And this is of course a classic twist on the original Charles Dickens tale, Oliver Twist. No pun intended. Oliver here is an orphaned little kitty cat who's taken in by a gang of thieving dogs. They're led by Cavalier Canine Dodger, voiced by Billy Joel, who also penned the music for this. And they're all owned by the down-and-out pickpocket Fagin, voiced by Dom DeLuise. While pulling a job on the streets of New York City, Oliver winds up being adopted by a rich girl named Jenny and landing on an easy street. But through a series of unfortunate events, a loan shark threatens the peaceful new arrangement. Now, I'll be honest, I am a huge fan of the original Oliver Twist book. I'm a big fan of Charles Dickens in general, and Oliver Twist just might be one of my favorite stories of his. So much so, I actually got to perform in a stage musical version of this close to 10 years ago. Oh my god, how time flies. And I feel like if I just sat here and compared this movie to the original source material, I would just sit here and be miserably depressed the entire time, because as it stands, Oliver and Company is very much a mixed bag. First of all, I love the scratchy style of the animation here. It really helps the grittiness of New York City pop on the screen. You have some nice colors thrown into the mix, and I love the fact that Oliver is a little kitty cat. I would liken the opening of this movie to what Bolt would do in 2008. It is just an adorable, tear-jerking opening sequence, and you feel so much sympathy for Oliver from the word go. And then he meets Dodger on the streets of New York, and this is where waters start to get a little bit dicey. First of all, I think Billy Joel does fine in the role. My problem isn't necessarily with him or any of the actors that are voicing these parts. Dom DeLuise does a great job. I would have actually loved to have seen him play Fagin in an adaptation of Oliver Twist that wasn't a Disneyfied version, because I feel like the twists they made to the dark tale that is the original Oliver, I mean, I get it, because it's Disney and all, but I feel like it takes away a lot of the edge that I really enjoyed out of that original story. And I feel like a lot of the edge and the uneasiness is centered around the relationship between Fagin and the villain, Bill Sikes. Because in the original tale, Bill Sikes was Fagin's protege. Now, if the protege is pulling off the dastardly deeds that he is and being as despicable of a bastard as he is, imagine how despicable Fagin is. In this case, the roles are reversed. Bill Sikes is the boss and Fagin is pretty much at his submission, even more so than he already would have been in the original Oliver tale. And I really think that weakens the character of Fagin to an inexcusable degree. And I'll be honest, it kind of takes me out of the movie a little bit. Matter of fact, on this recent rewatch, I was kind of bored for a lot of Oliver and Company. Now, Billy Joel is an awesome artist, so his songs should really up the fun factor. And yes, Why Should I Worry is definitely the best song of the bunch. For goodness sakes, you will be tapping your toes to that song for the next week or so if you watch this movie. Why should I worry? Tell me, why should I care? You know, kind of like that. Except maybe a little louder. But all the rest of these songs are just so bland and so forgettable. Heck, Bette Midler is in here. She gets a song and she's good as she usually is, but certainly not in the upper tier of memorable songs that come from Oliver and Company, if there are any other memorable songs aside from Why Should I Worry. And I really do think that this movie had a humongous disadvantage from its very release. Now, granted, I was not alive to see this comparison or anything, but this movie apparently came out around the same time as The Land Before Time, which is not a Disney movie, but you watch a movie like that and you'd be fooled. You would think that a studio as well-rounded as Disney would have made a mature story like The Land Before Time. But no, Disney at this point was making the weaker entries like Oliver and Company. They hadn't gone through the Disney Renaissance at this point, so we hadn't seen The Little Mermaid or Beauty and the Beast and so forth. This definitely seems like a project that would tide the kids over until the big smash hits came out in the 90s. And that's not to say Oliver and Company is a horrible movie. I just don't think it's overly memorable. Granted, there are memorable moments, like the adorable opening like I was referring to, as well as one of the greatest villain deaths in Disney history. Bill Sikes is not gunned down by a police officer as he would be in the original, because, you know, I don't think Disney would I don't think they let gunfire fly. Even back in the 80s, I think that was a big no-no for them. No, instead, you see this guy get run over by a train, and it's freaking awesome. But yeah, some good moments and one great song I don't think are enough to save this to be a great Disney movie in my eyes. This one is just okay at best. I'm gonna give Oliver and Company a C. Golly, if you would have told me that it wasn't Disney making this movie, I would have believed you. And if you would have told me back in the day that The Land Before Time was the big Disney release before the big Renaissance period, yeah, that probably sounds correct. But yeah, if you're a fan of Dickens, this is probably not going to satisfy you, especially if you enjoy the Oliver Twist story. I would just recommend going to see an adaptation of the stage musical or go watch the movie that actually was nominated, I believe, won Best Picture in 1968. Ron Moody plays Fagin in that one. Oliver Reed is Bill Sikes. Much better than this movie. Let me know what you thought of Oliver and Company down in the comments section below. What is the most disappointing Disney release that you've experienced throughout your life? Guys, as always, I love discussing all things in movies and entertainment, all things geeky like in the Disney realm over here on the regular. So if you're new, do consider becoming a subscriber and tap on that thumbs up on your way out. Really helps spread the love and helps continue to grow this awesome community out here. And stay tuned for more exciting videos hitting the channel very soon. Looking forward to seeing both Blue Beetle and Strays in theaters this weekend. As far as what's next in the Disney retrospective, I think it's about time we go back to the live action realm, shall we? Let's fast forward once again to the year 2013. We're going to celebrate another 10-year anniversary by watching Saving Mr. Banks, which again, as a huge fan of the original source material, Mary Poppins, this is going to be an interesting one to discuss. Guys, y'all are the best. To look out for all those videos and much more very soon. So with all that being said, Back Talk, commence.